In the 1970s, one company out-engineered everyone else, including Pioneer, Marantz, even Macintosh. Their amplifiers didn't look like anybody else's, and they sounded so good you could hear your neighbor's divorce through it. And oh yeah, they basically invented surround sound before Dolby did. Their name faded, the factories went silent, and collectively, audiophiles around the world said, how can a company so good just disappear? So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and you can have cam coffee if you want, link in the description, and let's talk about the rise, the fall of Sansui.
The Sansui Intelligence Super Compo.
No other stereo component system gives you so much pleasure with so little effort.
Big thank you to today's sponsor, Opera Browser. Opera Browser has a ton of features that you're gonna love, including tab traces. This feature is super useful for people that have 30 or more tabs open in the browser. It allows you to easily identify where you're coming from at a glance. The darker the underscore, the more recently you visited that tab. And Tab Islands makes it even more useful. You can group your tabs together by theme, project, or context. Simply hover one tab over another to manually create a tab island, or when you click into a link from your existing web page, the link will automatically open as a new tab in your tab island. My favorite feature from Opera Browser is the music player. Control your music without interrupting your browsing activities or without having to listen to it from your phone. You can move the player anywhere, both inside or outside of the browser. Choose between 7 different music streaming services: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Deezer, Tidal, and SoundCloud. Music automatically pauses when you start a video, offering a seamless, more convenient experience, all without any extra clicks. And you can customize your Opera experience how you want to with different themes. Customize every aspect yourself: mode, intensity, animation, sounds, colors, shaders, and more. So give Opera Browser a try today. Click on the link in the description. Thank you, Opera Browser, for sponsoring today's video. The Sansui story, like so many before it, starts in Japan during World War II. Not exactly a great time to start a business. Kasuga Kikuchi was an engineer and he was making radios for the military. In December of 1944, he opened up a small shop in Yoyogi, Japan, if I'm getting that right. And he was building transformers for military and industrial use. Japan was running on fumes. Factories were bombed out. Materials were scarce, and quality control basically meant if it turns on, it's good to go. Kikuchi, however, refused to cut corners. His motto was, let's make better quality products even if it costs more, which was a bold statement at the time because most people couldn't afford to eat lunch. As the country rebuilt, people wanted something human again: radio, music, connection. And by 1947, Kikuchi registered Sansui Electric, shifting 100% from industrial products to radios, the ones you used in your home, not to call in a bomb strike. In 1954, Sansui made their first consumer amplifier that officially moved them from making parts to making music. Japan was soaking up Western culture at the time, and young people were buying their first record players. Sansui wanted to give them something special, something that sounded natural. Through the late 1950s, they started experimenting with transistors. They also sold kits for the DIY people and finished amps for people that didn't want to make kits. By 1957, their gear was showing up in military PXs. And it didn't take long for those sailors and GIs to figure out that Sansui was something special. By the early 1960s, Sansui had a reputation for precision and quality, and started a slow climb towards hi-fi greatness. But that climb was about to get pretty steep because Sansui turned into the size of a mountain. In 1965, Sansui launched the AU series. Sleek, matte, black-faced components. While other Japanese brands were flashing chrome and had VU meters that's big enough to measure rainfall, Sansui didn't want to do that. They were like a business suit: clean, confident, serious.
Lacto, everyone.
Remember when I talked about sailors and GIs? Well, a whole bunch of Sansui gear started getting shipped back to the United States. By 1967, they made their first turntable, and by 1969, Sansui was listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. Had a US branch and $1 billion in capital. I have no idea how much that actually is, but apparently it was a lot for an audio company. They had officially joined the Big Four: Pioneer, Marantz, Kenwood. I thought it would have been different than that. They'd conquered the living room, but by the 1970s, they had made something so powerful it could heat the whole house.
They don't make them like this anymore.
The 1970s? Well, I don't think I have to tell you, but that was their masterpiece decade. The era of the AU 9500, the AU 11000, and the legendary AU 111. Amps that were standards for sound and build quality. Some of them are still running today, owned by people that say they don't make them like they used to. In 1971, they went full mad scientist and released the QS-1 quadraphonic synthesizer, a system that turned 2-channel records into 4-channel surround sound years before Dolby even thought about it. By the mid-1970s, the 9090 DB was released, and the AU X1. Reviewers call them best in class, but the problem with analog perfection is once you hit it, there's only one place to go: digital.
E コンポ700i 新登場Sansui.
As the 1980s kicked off, Sansui continued to push boundaries. With the AU-D33, the AU-D101, they used advanced servo circuits. I have no idea what that means, but it reduced distortion.
Wow. That was fast.
They opened up branches in Germany and the UK, trying to make Sansui a global powerhouse. However, during that time, the audio world started to shift because, well, in '82, the compact disc came out. Some companies, like Sansui, thought it was going to be a fad. But Sony, Pioneer, Panasonic, Philips, any other P company, they dove headfirst into the digital compact disc pool. And by the late 80s, Sansui's name pretty much had vanished, especially in the US. They still hung around in Japan, but in other markets, Sansui wasn't really available. But even so, they introduced the Alpha series, which was a crowning achievement from a technological standpoint for Sansui. The AUX1111 Moss was one of the best sounding amps that nobody could afford. Brilliant engineering, wrong decade. And since they wouldn't sell out to digital, what came next carried a pretty hefty price tag.
Great Sansui system with a full-size record changer, these big 3-way 12-inch speaker systems, and the Sansui AM/FM receiver. A fantastic...
By the 1990s, Sansui was pretty much faded all the way out, but they were still making new products. The B2105 stereo power amp was incredible, but also super expensive. But the market for high-end stereo had pretty much collapsed by this time. Meanwhile, cheaper brands were flooding the market with home theater receivers. That was the new thing, and that's what everybody was spending their money on. Sansui tried to adapt. How? Well, I'm glad you asked. TVs and VCRs. Makes a lot of sense at this time. Nothing says audiophile heritage than Sansui picking a fight with Sanyo and Sharp. By 2001, the Yokohama headquarters closed its doors. And that was the end of the Japanese-built Sansui products. Most production shifted overseas. And in a final poetic twist, they released the AU-111G Vintage. It was the recreation of their first great tube amp and went into production the same year the headquarters closed its doors. By 2005, the last true Sansui rolled off the line. And a brand that started with obsession ended with nostalgia. The name died and then came back.
Made me kind of sad.
Just when everybody thought the Sansui story was over, the name came back, but just in a way that nobody really expected. A new company called Sansui Electric from China popped up, and they were making televisions and small appliances for the Chinese market.
In a game of murderous hot potato.
After that, Sansui, or at least the name, was involved in a game of hot potato, and it was the hot potato. Orion Electric in Japan owned it for a while, and then Nimble Holdings owned it for a while, and then Yongami Group in Hong Kong owned it for a while. And since 2017, the Sansui name has been slapped on everything from Bluetooth speakers to blenders and sold in over 100 countries. I kind of want to buy a Sansui blender. The modern version of Sansui isn't an audio company anymore. Again, as with other storied Japanese audio brands, the name is simply licensed out at this point.
Made me kind of sad.
The Sansui that we remember, in my opinion, the real Sansui, well, it still exists, just with collectors. And you're going to have to go find an old one if you want the real Sansui. If you had a Sansui receiver, put it in the comments. And in your opinion, was it better than Pioneer, Marantz, Kenwood? One thing we cannot deny is that Sansui was unique in their design philosophy. Everything from the dark faced receivers, which are gorgeous, the 9090 dB, which I kind of want to buy one now, hand-drawn circuits tuned by ear, a build quality meant to last forever. Every time someone powers on a Sansui, it goes back to a time where the engineering mattered more than the marketing, which sounds like it's a good thing, but it's not, because, well, the company doesn't exist anymore. Sometimes you need a little bit of marketing to go along with a lot of engineering. The Sansui story is a reminder about obsessive perfection, and obsessive perfection rarely survives in the real world. And today what remains is a logo, a name. This story is almost identical to the Nakamichi story, and you really need to check that video out. I will link it right here or right here. Thank you so much for watching.